Everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I have another interview for you today. I got to sit down with Marc Von Ahnen to talk about his newest comic, War on Christmas. The comic is exactly what it sounds like. He talks about the inspiration where it came from, which is a hilarious little detail kind of story, like, you know, the smallest seed planted in his brain sprouted into this comic he's now crowdfunding. We talk about his past works, his process, artists he's worked with. It's a very cool conversation for comic creators and comic fans alike. I hope you enjoy, but also remember War on Christmas has a GoFundMe account. That's what he's using for fundraising rather than Kickstarter, Indiegogo, one of the other millions of platforms out there. So if you go to GoFundMe and search War on Christmas if you're interested, you can throw him a few bucks back the project, get your hands on a cool indie book. Enjoy the interview. Hey everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I'm sitting down with Marc Von Ahnen. Is that how you say it?
Von Ahnen. I should
Von
change
Ahnen.
it to Ahnen. That's how everybody pronounces it. So maybe I'm wrong.
Well,
It's
no, I should have asked you about your name pronunciation before I pressed record, but I always forget.
No worries.
You have a new comic coming out, War on Christmas, right?
I do. We are my artist is working on it, planning to have it done in time for Christmas. Yeah, it's just sort of a take on that expression, War on Christmas. Which I think one day I was just sitting around, I'm like, has anybody wrote a movie or comic called this yet? And I couldn't see anything, so I couldn't find anything anyway. But so I decided to take the opportunity and take it myself. So that's what War on Christmas is. And I always say, if you're interested, it's sort of a mixture of Die Hard mixed with the claymation Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So it's like putting those two together.
Okay, so like a R-rated Rankin Bass special.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yes. No, did you ever? I'm assuming we're probably around the same age. I'm assuming you've seen the movie Scrooged with Bill Murray.
I have a while ago. It's one I should probably revisit this year.
Oh, do you remember the beginning of the movie where they have that Christmas special with Santa getting attacked and all the elves are fighting off and Lee Majors comes in?
Yeah, vaguely.
I remember watching, I think Scrooge, I think it was this year. I was like, oh, that's pretty much I pretty much just stole that.
Oh, all right.
So, yeah.
That gives people a good idea what they're in for.
Yeah. If you wanted to see that the entire time instead of Bill Murray, then yeah, hit me up.
All right, cool. And you're crowdfunding that on GoFundMe currently, right? We'll get the business out of the way, then we'll dive in.
Yeah, I just do GoFundMe. I haven't come up with goals or anything yet, so I'll probably print donors' names in it and stuff, I guess, because but yeah, that's sort of what we're working on is GoFundMe right now.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So to dive a little deeper in, is this your first foray into comics?
No, I actually have one series I have published. And I've self-published it. It's called Ahab Van Helsing versus the Nosferatu Carcharodon, which pretty much, if I've got that right, and I'm not 100% sure I am sometimes, pretty much that means Ahab Van Helsing versus the vampire shark. So it's just a story of my idea was what would happen if a vampire got eaten by a shark. What would happen to that, what would happen to the shark if it got all the vampire powers? And so that's sort of where the story comes from. It's, again, if I have to mix it with something, I would say it's a mix of like Evil Dead, Army of Darkness with Jaws. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense because the first email that we exchanged, you said, hey, I'd like to come on. I got a new comic. And then you mentioned something about a shark and vampire comic. Then when you were talking about War on Christmas, I was like, did I read that email wrong? And like, where did I get shark and vampire if it's War on Christmas?
No, yeah, that's been my first one. And I actually have a Facebook page for it. I think it's under Ahab Van Helsing. So if anybody is watching this, look for that. You can find me that way. So if you are interested in issues. And then the other comic I have is, I'll show you some of the merch. It's called Hilarity, which is pretty much, somebody asked if I was pretty much trying to bring back Mad Magazine, where it's just a bunch of jokes and little comics I wrote. So that's what that is. And then I put my friend Wes on the cover. So
Okay, cool. So you're keeping pretty busy creating stuff.
trying to, yeah, it's hard because I'm pretty much doing it all myself right now. So it can get expensive. So, but it's
Right. So
fun.
you're writing and then finding an artist, a colorist, a letterer, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't have any ability to draw, so I have to outsource talent.
Yeah, that is the tough thing when you want to create a comic, but you can't draw. Because I was in the same boat as you a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah, and they're out there. I mean, there's some. I've said it before on other podcasts. I've been really fortunate with the artists I found. They've worked great. They worked out great, and I've heard horror stories of people who are like, they hired an artist and then they take their money and then they never hear anything.
Oh yeah.
So I have not had that problem. Very lucky, and all my artists and everybody I've worked with has not only done what I asked, but kind of knocked it out of the park. So
Oh, that's awesome. You
yeah,
work with the same crew over and over.
no, with War on or with Ahab Van Helsing, I did want to do that. I wanted to do just so it was like coherent, one full story. That was always my goal. And after the second issue, I believe my artist at the time, I messaged him. I said, "Hey, I got the money. I'm ready to go." And at that point, he said, "I can't. I have to back out due to personal reasons," which sucked, because he was a great guy, and I liked working with him. But I understood, and I wasn't going to argue with him. So I had to find a second artist for that. But with Hilarity, I wanted each comic to have a different vibe to it, just so you knew while you were reading it that you knew it was something different. You know what I mean? So it's like a different. You're able to break up that this is a different sketch or different.
Yeah, they're one-offs instead of a series.
Yes. So I did do that with Hilarity. So, which was actually kind of tough because I found a lot of my artists in like Facebook pages. I just would go to like Facebook page and throw out some to the effect of, "Hey, I'm looking for an artist. Is anybody interested?" And I would start getting responses from people. And if you get a chance to look at the first guy, I don't know how he's not working for like Marvel or DC or what have you, because he is so good. Like it was just like, well, this is well beyond stupid dick jokes I was planning. you know, he was and he did a phenomenal job. I was like thrilled, but it was hard to work with him because he was out of, I want to say, the Philippines.
Okay.
So I had to Google translate each strip and like each panel just to make sure. And sometimes, of course, with when you're dealing with somebody that's not speaking same language, I was really kind of concerned that they were going to lose the joke or not get the joke because that's
Right, all the slang and stuff in Google Translate's very literal, like one-to-one, which isn't always accurate.
Yes, and there were a couple times where if you haven't had a chance, there's this isn't the same guy, it's a different guy, and this is like, if this was like an SNL episode, I think this would have sketch that wouldn't make it a cut because I don't think it works as well on paper as it did in my head. But it was the same story where he was somewhere overseas, but it was only like 3 panels. And the whole joke with this one, it was Disney's Beauty and the Beast, which if you've ever seen it, I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah.
At the end where they all turn back into humans. Well, there's the kid Chip, who's a little teacup with a chip, like just a chip out of it. So my joke was in the movie, he turns back into a human and his tooth is chipped. He's missing part of his tooth. My joke was he's still going to be missing out of his head. So he's just laying on the ground and his brains are just splattered. They're just leaking out.
It was fun with a magical cup.
yeah. You don't have brains to leak out when you're just a cup. And so I remember when I was working with the guy and he would send me the art and the kid's head was like away from you, so you couldn't see his face. And I remember having to write, we need to see the kid's face and a giant hole in his head with brains leaking out because, it's the joke. It's like, this guy has to be like, this man's insane. And
Yeah, that's not a joke.
Yeah, I'm surprised Interpol didn't come over. Like, what do you think is funny? Do we need to look at your computers and dark web and stuff? But yeah, other than that, no. I mean, other than that, it was it was a lot of fun, and the feedback on Hilarity has been really good. I was actually kind of surprised because whenever you do something comedy, there's always a tickle in the back of your head. It's like, this is all stupid, and you're wasting everybody's time.
Comedy is so hard because it's like you want it to be funny for everybody, but you also can't make it too much of a softball, otherwise it's funny to nobody. And if you think it's hilarious, there's a good chance that either everyone else will or everyone else is going to be like, yeah, it's only funny to you because you know what's going on. So I know what you mean. You're like in this weird void.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, yeah, it's definitely one of those try to please everybody, please nobody thing.
Yeah.
But it seems to have gone well. And Ahab I've gotten good feedback on that one too. So, so far I'm really pleased with the responses. So on both of them,
awesome.
Pretty thrilled.
So what got you interested in doing it in the first place, like going all the way back to the beginning?
Okay, well, if you want to go all the way back to the beginning, comics. I remember as a child, I had a very limited. You have a very limited view on the world, right? Children are not worldly, so I think as a kid, I thought there were two things in the world: there were toys, and then there were sports, and that's it. And I knew I didn't like sports, and I was bad at sports. Like, I have all my brothers are like sports enthusiasts. Like, they love baseball, football, what have you. And I couldn't care less about any of them. And everybody's like, well, how did that happen? Like, why are you the black sheep when it comes to sports? And I'm like, I tried playing sports. They didn't like me first. It's not my fault I sucked at them. So I remember I have this vivid memory of my brother. He went with my dad to our local grocery store, and he came home. Apparently I didn't go. He came home with an Avengers comic, and I remember him saying to me, "I'm going to start reading these. They're called comic books." And I had to be young, and I could even tell you, I could even find like the issue. It was an Avengers one. It was right around when they introduced Rage. Do you remember the character Rage?
Yeah.
So it was like that area. That's when he started reading comics. And I remember flipping through a comic, and I was just like, I think I found my thing. I think I'm not into sports, so it must be this. So ever since then, I've been I was on and off for a while, but now I'm definitely into it full time. When I was a kid, I got into, because I was still young enough that I was diehard Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles guy. So I remember I read all the Archie Ninja Turtles. Like, that was my first series I collected. And then it went to X-Force, because I think as a child, I thought that was really edgy and almost like I shouldn't be allowed reading it. And then you look at it now, it's like, oh, well, nothing's happening ever.
Right.
It's literally just guys standing around posing. But when you're 11, it's amazing. So then I started reading X-Force, and then it just sort of, I would start trying everything.
No, that's cool. Yeah.
So ever since I was I've always enjoyed writing myself. So I would always sit down and try and write and create stories, create heroes, or what have you. I've been doing that my whole life. And I've always wanted to kind of, do something official. And so I would, as I was, growing up and stuff, I kept at that. And eventually I came up with it, and I never really had any success or anything, but I eventually came up with this vampire shark idea. And I will tell you one thing, this is 100% true. Some people may not believe it. I have sat on this for like 15 years. So this predates any Sharknado or Sharktopus, because I share it. I try and push it everywhere. And I've got this response more than once, which always makes me laugh. And I always say, don't give sci-fi channels any more ideas. No. But I was before all of them. I was, but whatever. But I wrote this script, I wrote this comic, and I'll be 100% honest, I never thought it was ready to be released. I never thought it was I thought it was still flawed. And I never knew what I needed to add, which in hindsight I know now, which is probably character development and plot, because it's literally just a bunch of sharks and vampire things eating things. So if that's all you
Don't
want,
you think that's what people are buying it for, though?
I do.
Yeah.
But if I wanted to get it actually published, like through Dark Horse or Image or what have you, I think that's what they want. They're like, well, we would like to have some sort of character development or story. But yes, you're right too. That's it's like vampire shark porno where it's just
Well,
it's all
going back to people confusing that you're taking inspiration from Sci-Fi Channel, even though you had the idea first, is no one's watching Sharknado for the deep character development and to see if they overcome their life's journey.
Wait,
That's not what the genre is for.
See, I always heard Sharknado was sci-fi Shawshank Redemption.
It might be, but
no, you're not wrong. Yeah, that was always a funny story. This is kind of getting off topic, but I'll tell you, this always made me laugh. Because okay, so I did have to find a new artist a couple of years ago, and I found this guy, awesome artist. His name's Gary McCluskey. You can find him on Facebook if you need artwork. I highly recommend the guy. He's great. He works really hard, and I'm really pleased with him. But so he was, and this is sort of my audition process, I guess, is if somebody reached out to me, I'd say, hey, I would throw out that I was looking for an artist. He responded with, hey, I'm interested in the gig, let's talk and kind of see what we need to do. And so my first response is always, let me see some of the artwork you've done. And so he threw me some pictures, and he does like a lot of fantasy stuff, dragons and women in like Red Sonja style outfits, and they look really good. So then I said, and this is the second step, like I tell him the idea, like you have a character named Ahab Van Helsing. He's like a mixture of a pirate and a cop. He has a vampire hunter. He has a hook for a hand, but the hand, instead of a hook, it's a crucifix. A peg leg, but it's a stake, stuff like that. Just merge the two, and then the vampire shark is a great white shark, but bat wings for pectoral fins. I was like, just draw something. Let me see what you think, or let me see what you could do, and if I like it, let's move forward. And he drew this phenomenal photo. I mean, it's insane. Like it could have been a movie poster. Like it was that good. Of like Ahab on a boat with a long spear or hook, I guess. And then the vampire shark just flying out of the water in front of him. And I was like, all right, let's go. So he posts to his Facebook page that like, this is his new gig and he's going to be doing this with me, which I thought was cool. Well, this one guy messages me out of nowhere and he's just like, hey, I hear about this vampire shark movie or comic you're doing. He's like, that sounds really awesome. Can I read it? And I was like, yeah, I'm totally up for that. Like, give me your email and stuff. And I sent him digital copies. And he said to me, he's like, have you thought about turning this into a movie? So I was like, well, yeah, of course, but I don't know how. Like, I don't have those connections. But if somebody called me, like, I got a phone call from Martin Scorsese, which I don't know why he would want to make this, but, I would totally let him. But I was like, yeah, of course. He's like, well, and then he tells me he has these connections and like with directors and stuff. And he wanted to know if I'd be interested in helping make a movie. And I was like, I mean, yeah, I guess. So the story began with, he started asking for something from me, which is like a treatment. And I'm not in Hollywood. So I had no idea what that was. So I went to my friend, and my friend, he actually went to film school, and he was in a pretty famous director's wedding. I can't tell you who, but he directed Guardians of the Galaxy and Suicide Squad. But anyway, you might be able to put it together. I don't know. I don't know if I can't tell you who or not.
Spend enough time online, you could do the follow, connect the dots.
Yeah, he never said I couldn't tell people. So, plus I don't think he was friends with James Gunn. I think it was with it's now his ex-wife. So it's not like we have a connection. So I don't want people to think that like it would be cool if we did. So anyway, I go to him and I'm like, this is what he wants. And my friend Jeff is like, well, a treatment is kind of ambiguous. It doesn't mean anything. It can mean a million different things. So Jeff decides, he's like, well, if you want to pursue this, I'd be willing to help you if I can be part of the team. And I said, yeah, of course, because I don't know what I'm doing. So Jeff reads the comics, and like the next day he was like, we can't write, this isn't a movie. I said, what do you mean? He's like, there's no story here. It's just sharks, vampire things eating people. I said, yeah, that's what I wanted. He's like, that's not a movie though. And since then we've been pursuing this, and we've written this movie, and actually we have like a finished script now. But there were so many times where he was like, we have to have this, and we have to think about how this relates to this. And in my head, I'm like, it's about a vampire shark. Nobody cares. It was like you said, like, is this why people are going? It's like nobody's going for the for the acting or anything. They just want to see vampire animals.
Well, how often do you hear people say that like these Transformers movies that have made billions of dollars is like, why are these movies not just like 45-minute special effects reels? We don't need all the human drama to make it 3.5 hours long.
I've always said that. Because my brother will defend them. And I'm like, why? Like the third one, I'm like, why is there an hour of Sam looking for a job? I don't care if Sam has a job. It's not why I'm here.
No, you want to watch one giant robot punch another giant robot.
Exactly. And the animated movie did it perfectly. They should have just remake that.
Yeah, really.
Word for word. That movie's phenomenal. Yeah, so I'm with you. It's definitely one of those things that if that's your cup of tea, man, people that really seem to like it. I'm really pleased. Like I said, I'm very pleased with the response on it. So it's just sort of a lot of fun. It's in case you're one, yeah, it's very much done. Like I said, it was meant to be. It was meant to be like growing up. I loved Army of Darkness and Evil Dead 2. So when I decided how I wanted to approach this, I was like, well, I'm going to emulate that. I'm going to emulate what Sam Raimi did. I got a fun story about that, by the way. So if you're like a Sam Raimi fan, I definitely tried to push the humor into it. And a lot of people tell me they thought it was funny. So, if that's not your cup of tea, hit me up. I definitely get you some issues. I'm out of physical ones, but digital is always available. So
nice.
Yes, I will. So, I actually can't tell you how I did this, but I did find a way to get the issues to Sam Raimi. So he has every issue of the comic, and I never heard anything. So I actually never thought he got him, right? So we start doing this whole movie thing. My friend finds this, I don't know where he's looking, but he calls me and says, hey, we can pay this much money and Sam Raimi's assistant will read this movie script and give us pointers and stuff. And I was like, do it. I will pay I will pay the fee. Like I will cover this. And so we sign up for it, we get it, and we have this call with the guy. And I kid you not, the first thing he said was, I'm already familiar with this story. He's like, Sam Raimi has every issue, and he shows them to people.
That's awesome.
Yeah, apparently he's like, and he keeps them in his, like, he has like a long box of comics. He's like, he keeps them in there. So
that's amazing.
For nothing else, I got this to like Sam Raimi, and he's aware of it, and apparently he likes it enough to show other people, which like kind of like at the time I was like, well, that's it. I don't need any more. I kind of hit my
yeah, that's how I would feel too. Is like that's really all I need. I don't even care that he didn't pay for him.
Yeah, no, exactly. But then it's like, oh, I'm still broke, so now I would like somebody to pay for this movie. Which I don't know if that'll happen, but that would be cool. But no, it's just kind of cool that I can tell you Sam Raimi apparently liked the story as well. So that was kind of cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if he remembers that. He may like if people brought it up, he'd probably be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But
right. But you have that story.
Yes, and I have one person that was with me when it happened. So unless, so that was pretty cool. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So, what led from Vampire Shark to War on Christmas? I mean, you kind of talked about the origins of War on Christmas a little bit. It was mostly just the expression you wanted to further explore it.
Yeah.
Is it the same kind of? Well, I guess it wouldn't be the same style, but is it like the same vein where it's more of a serious story with like a lot of humor injected, or
Yeah.
a kind of ridiculous story with humor injected?
No, I take I'm with these. I go for the Airplane. The movie Airplane,
Yeah.
where apparently what they would do when they directed the movie, and I did this when I was making Hilarity too, because there's a couple in there where I wanted them to be serious, and I'm just like, take it completely serious. Like, this is not a comedy; it's an action movie. But of course, it's an action movie where Santa's shooting people, and there's that scene, that famous action movie scene where the hero takes a shower and they show off his butt. I even have Santa in the shower just because that's an action movie trope. So it's difficult to say. We're in my head, I'm always like, take it completely serious, and then everything else I think at that point would be funny if you just do it seriously.
I love that approach because that's something I picked up personally a long time ago with Judd Apatow. When they were writing Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Jason Segel's like, how do I write this to be funny? Like, it's about a guy going through a horrible breakup. And Judd Apatow said, just write a drama and then funny people will make it funny. So it's kind of like what you're saying.
No, I bet that. And I've learned actually do stand-up comedy here locally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I'm a firm believer of this. This is the exact opposite of everything else. The harder you try to be funny, the less funny you're gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta, just do it and be funny. Like, don't, that's just how I think. Spontaneous, and that's me personally. So
yeah, I'm right there with you. There is like, some of the silly stuff, some of the stuff that people see coming a mile away, and it's played for laughs. But I think to tell a story, especially in like written form, like comic books, because you don't have delivery or inflection or anything like that, I think it's important to write your drama and then inject some humor into it.
I think, and it's really weird. I think if who I think is the best at writing humor in comics, which is kind of bizarre to say, Brian Bendis. Because when he would write Ultimate Spider-Man, there was more than one time where I laughed out loud. I was really impressed with his humor. Like, I was like, I don't know how. And then it was like this isn't even a humor comic. And I think that was a lot of it, where it wasn't a humor comic, and it's supposed to be broached as serious, and that's what made it funnier.
I think that does help too. Yeah, because if you try to read a comic where there's like a laugh every third panel, it's a lot are gonna miss.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would say, I mean, for a while there, I mean, Deadpool, I think, is supposed to be the Marvel funny character, and for a while there, I would say Ultimate Spider-Man was way funnier than,
Yeah, I don't know who was behind it, and I probably shouldn't have named names anyway because these guys are pros and I'm not. But I had a friend who was big into Deadpool years before the movie came out, and whenever we went to the comic shop, he'd always get nothing but Deadpool, and I'd never bought a Deadpool comic in my life. And I would read him and be like, it's almost like it's trying too hard.
Oh yeah, Deadpool. There's been, if you want my honest opinion, when it comes to Deadpool, Jerry Duggan he's like the best Deadpool writer, because he is like, he can do it he can do a lot of humor, and he actually can do it at times where Deadpool can be kind of almost sinister. So I think, and then there's been really good other ones too. And I don't really want to turn this into crapping on people.
No, I didn't mean to do that. I was just but going back to what you were saying about trying too hard. The harder you try, the less likely you are to succeed.
Yes, absolutely. And that's, I totally agree with that. And especially with, Deadpool is a perfect example where, there's a lot of times where it's just like, just doesn't work. It sounds like you're just hoping things, stick to the wall.
Right. But then they nailed it with the movie, so great for them.
I love those movies, and I'm still kind of in shock because, like, not only did I love them, like, my entire family, like, my dad loved them.
Deadpool became a household name overnight.
I know. And I was not, like, my brothers liked them, and like they're kind of into they're not really into comics, but Marvel Cinematic Universe is definitely that broadened their horizons to
Yeah,
that.
it's definitely broken down some division in comics and not comics people.
Yes, it's kind of funny because we're getting at this point now where my brother used to call me like when one of the Avengers movies or Thor movies were coming out, like, so who's this collector guy? Like, well, it's a lot like me, but instead of Simpsons action figures, it's girl stuff.
Right.
And now it's at a point where he's like, so who are the Eternals? And I'm like, I have no idea. You know as much as I do.
Yeah, it's going so deep that a lot of my friends too, when they ask me, I'm like, I don't know, this is beyond me.
Exactly.
I've heard it before, and that's about as far as it goes.
Yes, and then my brother will bring up people. It's like, I hear the rumor of this Loki character is this person. I'm like, I have no idea who that is.
Yeah, and I try not to pay attention to those rumors, especially when WandaVision was out. It was like every single character who walked across the background was Mephisto. It's like, can we just stop? Like,
my big thing too, because my brother, I try not to get, because I don't really want to be spoiled.
Mm-hmm.
I want to actually enjoy it.
You want to be along for the ride.
Yeah, and my brother, he loves them. Like, he just absorbs all of that, and he always calls me. He's like, "So you want to hear the rumor?" And I normally indulge him because at this point, I'm at a point where I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care. Like,
right? They're almost never right.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think I've ever heard one where it's like, well, you got that on the head. But no, he called me once and he's like, so apparently, and this was with Falcon Winter Soldier. He's like, rumor has it there's going to be a big name appearing, a big character. He's like, who do you think? And it's like all these rumors going around that it could be like Wonder Man or somebody, I don't remember. Like, it was just flying. I'm like, there's no way. And then I watched it, and it was the episode where Julia Louis-Dreyfus showed up, and apparently it was her. And I got to the end of the episode, I was like, well, there's no way that was it. I don't like, apparently, oh, I guess it was. Like so you kind of, I was expecting something major, and it was like, oh, it was just Elaine.
Yeah, I mean, it's still kind of cool they got to keep it quiet, but yeah, it was not the big world-shaking event the internet rumors were leading it on to be.
Exactly. No, you're 100% right. Or it's just like, don't take any of these serious, because the Mephisto thing was my breaking point too.
Yeah.
But it was.
I just like to be along for the ride.
Yeah, I just want to enjoy it. But it was. Yeah, no, they were great though. I'm a big fan of the. Loki was great. Did you finish that?
I haven't finished it yet. I got to watch the finale tonight.
Fantastic.
But yeah, they're knocking it out of the park on all these things. But yeah, we're way off topic. If you want to get back to War on Christmas.
Hey, man. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I don't mind tangents. I just realized, like, because that's what I do when I do these, is like we go so far off topic because I'm just enjoying the conversation. But you do have a book.
Well, there was a second there. I'm like, what were we talking about again?
Right.
War on Christmas. I do got the GoFundMe, and I'll definitely hook people up with digital copies and physical ones too when I get it printed.
You said it's being drawn right now, right?
Yes, it's written. It's just and then the guy, he's a friend of mine and he's awesome. But yeah, it sucks because he's gotten kind of sick, so we're kind of delayed. And I like to share progress stuff, but pretty much it's like I said, it's pretty much just Die Hard mixed with 1960s Rudolph. Hans Gruber goes to the North Pole and all hell's breaks loose. So
that's pretty awesome. When you did your first comic, did you have like a moment of awakening where you're like, holy crap, this takes way more time and effort than I ever imagined it would?
No, because I would write the comics at work, because I used to have a boring desk job, and I'd have a lot of downtime. Like I swear to God, I think I've literally, up until I left, I think I saw everything that was on YouTube. I think I went through all of it. So I would work on it on my downtime at work, because I was like, well, I'm going to do something constructive here because I'm just bored out of my mind. So that wasn't it. With me, it was definitely raising the money for it. Because it was, I would start to get the money, and then my car would die, and I'd have to get that repaired. And then at the time I had a house, so then I would, raise the money again, and my furnace would break. So which is pretty, that's how life works sometimes.
Yep, all the time.
Yeah. Eventually I had to I just got a 401k loan. And I was like, screw it. I don't care. I know everybody says you're not supposed to do that, but whatever. Like sometimes you got to just invest in yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I just went out and I grabbed a 401k loan and I found an artist, and I liked it because here's everything up front, every dime. That's for the cover. That's for, I have the cover done. I have the lettering done. So all I have to do is wait for it to kind of come in. So, and plus I'd sat on it for so long that to be honest with, the work was done for a long time. This is true. I sat on it for such a long time that while I'm getting it made, because I'm sending the scripts off, and then I'd get the pages back and I'd look through them, and there's a part in it where there's the vampire shark attacks it's like a Kager night. And the vampire shark is eating like all these teens. And then an issue ends and we see into this cave. There's like a teenage like vampire now. He's been bitten, like he's missing his whole half his body. And he's just in this cave. And I remember thinking to myself, what the hell is that? Like, why is that there? Like, what was I thinking? Like, and I had no idea what this had anything to do with, why it was there. No, and even I didn't know where it was going, and I wrote the damn thing. And then like 2 or 3 issues later comes out, and then he comes back and he's got bat wings. And so I think I was like, I thought it would be kind of crazy to have like a vampire shark attack victim, because whenever you see like shark attack victims of Shark Week or what have you, they always have these huge gnarly bites out of them.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, so I was like, well, I'm gonna do that. So
you should if you're doing a horror comic. Yeah. It's the whole point.
But yeah, it was weird because I remember there was a part of me that almost went to, like, I thought I took it out of the script, and I almost went back to the artist and say, hey, we got to remove this. And then I thought, like, isn't it possible that you haven't looked at this in over a decade? Maybe this is something.
That's insane that you wrote it over a decade ago and didn't like, I'm going to do one more pass before I sent it off to the artist.
I'm not that hardworking, apparently.
Just the OCD in me would be like, oh no, I don't think I could do that. I'd end up going over it 17 more times.
Do you think that how hard I work, like how much I push this, I would do that? But I think I'm too pumped to, like, I got it done. Let's go. I'm ready to move.
Oh, I didn't mean any judgment by it, because there's also the thing where you can totally over edit.
No, and I know, and you're not wrong. I agree with you. Like, I don't, but I guess I just sort of assumed it was done, and I mean, it was. So,
well, in your head, it was done for over a decade. So you're like, let's get this thing going already.
Yeah. I don't need that part yet. I was done with that. But yeah, it was. It just pulled me out of it. I was like, what is this? Why is this here?
It's a good thing that your 10 years ago self touched up on that storyline again. It didn't just go nowhere.
Yeah, I got to thank that guy if I ever bump into him. But I will. Okay, yeah. I do hilarity if you're interested. It is. I do have a story about that I want to share with you real quick, because I thought it was. The reason I made that is I do have a story published in a Hoy Comics called Love is Magic, and I believe it's Captain Ginger Volume 2 Volume 2 Issue 3, I think. I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure it's that one. And so when I noticed that they were looking for writers, they were looking to just publish short stories. And they said they wanted to find people who that's what their big push was. So I said, well, I'm gonna go for that. Like, I was kind of set my sights on them. And so I wrote one story, and it was about like the devil having breakfast with this guy who somehow this guy got in possession of a friend of his soul, and then the guy died. So the devil's trying to get the soul from the guy, which sounds highbrow, but I got the idea from The Simpsons when Bart sells Milhouse his soul. So that's where it came from. So it's not like that highbrow, but I was like pretty proud of it. I thought it was and they looked at it. They're like, nah, that's not what we're looking for. And then, okay. So then the third one, I have a friend, and he was one of the people, he has trouble, like, sometimes leaving his place, kind of anxiety and stuff. So I kind of thought of this. It's more of a poem about a person who just struggles with, you know, with social anxiety and getting out of their comfort zone. And again, I was really proud of it. I thought I did a great job. But the same thing, they're like, yeah, we're not, that's not us, but, you know, thank you anyway. And then after the third one, I did message them. I said, what are you looking for exactly? And they said, more humor based. And then that's when I sent them Love is Magic, which they did end up buying. They were like, yep, everybody here loves it. Like, it's magic here, I think they said. So but here's the thing. So the second one, and I skipped this, the second one, if you're interested, is the first comic in hilarity. And I wrote it in probably 20, like less than 20 minutes. And it's only like 2 or 3 pages, but I remember thinking of it and I thought it was so funny. But I also thought it was one of those things that if somebody like got it, like as a submission, they would either just crumple it up and throw it away, or they would, you know, give you a cease and desist because it was so stupid. So I was not expecting anything response wise, except for them to be like, never talk to us again. And then after I sent the third one, they sent me a message that did say, we're going to pass on the third one. It's not what we're looking for, but we are considering the second one, which is this really stupid. I'm like, what? Really? Like, that's what you want? The dumbest thing I can think of. And so when they said that, like that is sort of what inspired me to actually make hilarity, because they didn't, you know, since they passed on it, I still have this, it was almost good enough to be printed. So I decided, screw it, I'm going to do it myself. And, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was fun. But
I guess that's cool because it kind of tells you, like, just chase every whimsy. It's going to work for somebody.
Exactly. You never know. I mean, there's so many stories, like, I'll get off top. I mean, I'll let us wrap up. But yeah, that's how Simpsons got made. Is they wanted Life in Hell, and Matt Groening's like, I don't want to give up the rights. I'm not doing that. And then they called him up, like, because they couldn't find anything. It wasn't working. And they said, do you have anything else? And he said, yeah, I do. And he's like, I'll come in right now. And on the drive in, he drew the Simpsons. Like, he drew them on his drive to Fox, trying to think of something. And then now we have like the longest running. You know,
it's like 34 years or something.
Yeah, you never know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But so you're absolutely right. Just sort of, that was sort of my kind of, at least if nothing else, and I want people to like take away from this, just go for it. You know, just try and run with it as best you can, and you never know where it's going to lead.
Definitely. Yeah. And I find personally, just creating something, you just feel better, even if it isn't the most successful thing. You're just doing it for yourself.
I will. My favorite thing too. And I noticed a friend of mine on Twitter this week, she was trying to write something, and she said something to the effect of, when she writes, and then she immediately thinks it's awful, and then wants to scrap it all, goes back to it, starts again, thinks it's all awful, goes back to it. And it's just this process of her telling herself how bad she's doing. And this sounds almost negative, and I don't mean it that way, but I'm like, stories like that make me feel so much better, because I always think it's me. Like, you always think it's like everything you're working on. Sometimes you look at it, it's like, this is god awful. No one could like this.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times it's just yourself telling you that, and everybody else is just going to love it.
And I think it's also doubly true if you're new to writing, or you're kind of just diving back in after years away, or it's your first draft of something, because the first thing you write's never going to be your best.
No. And that would be like one of my, that would be one of the takeaways is, first off, you know, you're never as bad as you think you are, but of course you're never as great as you think you are either.
Right.
So
you just got to keep at it, keep working it.
Yes. Understand that, you know, sometimes criticism is important and valid, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Cause there's, don't get hurt if somebody gives you honest, like, this is what I didn't like about it. And I did have somebody like, you know, I always will send the comic. I like, just let me know what you think. And one guy, he's like, there's talent here. I liked it. I do think you needed another a pass at like editing or something along those lines. More, you know, something like more outline or something. And I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I did it. I could have told you that.
But that's good though, because that's how you get better. You improve. People give you feedback.
Exactly. Yes. And especially as long as you don't, talk yourself out of it or shoot yourself in the foot. That's
the
really,
thing. If you quit, it's never going to get better. So you might as well keep working it. And if you don't get the feedback you wanted, then learn from it and keep going.
yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of stories out there where people. That's like 6 Days to Air, the South Park documentary.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah,
So
well,
good.
and this is what I love about that. Trey Parker said in that episode or in that movie, he's like, every episode we do, I think is the worst episode.
Yeah, he thinks like every time he writes one, he's like, "Oh, we're done after this one. No one's gonna care anymore."
Exactly, and it doesn't matter what level you're at, which is I think that's a good feeling. That's good to have, but to a level, to a point.
Well, I think if you write something and you're said, this is the best thing ever written, I'm going to be a billionaire, this is the next Marvel Cinematic Universe, this is amazing, I don't need to do a second pass. Maybe 1 in 10 million, you're right, but probably you're delusional, so keep working.
There's reasons why there's so few Star Wars or Ninja Turtles.
Right.
So, yeah, no, that's my take on it is I want, if for nothing else, people hear this, just go for it. Who cares?
Yeah, that's the big thing. And I think you're good evidence of that because now you're on your third comic. You've been publishing some things with some shorts. You're just doing your thing and you found a way to make it happen.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And it's like, yeah, I got my name out there and people really, they seem to enjoy it. And yeah, it's been awesome. It's been an awesome journey so far.
That's great. Well, Mark, thank you very much for taking the time to come on and talk to me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was nice meeting you.
Absolutely. You too. Good luck with everything.
Yes, thank you.
I'd like to thank Mark one more time for coming on the show to talk to me about comics, creating comics, and his newest comic, War on Christmas, which can be found on GoFundMe right now. Make sure you check it out. And also make sure you like and subscribe to our channel because we have a lot more interviews, new movie coverage, Comic-Con coverage. We're finally going back this coming weekend. Unboxings that are piling up in my closet in front of me. More cool stuff. Like and subscribe. You're not going to want to miss out. Also, be sure you listen to So Wizard Podcast every single week, wherever you get your podcasts. So Wizard Podcast can be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get multiple monthly bonus shows. SoWizardPodcast.com is your resource for reviews, recommendations, merchandise, videos, and more. We love hearing feedback. Drop us a note in the comments. Leave us something on social media. All the accounts will be found after the show and in the show notes. On a more personal note, and not to piggyback on Mark's comic creation stuff too hard, but I have my own comic out with a really good friend of mine. It's called Social Studies. It's a slice-of-life comedy comic about the high school experience, all the ridiculousness that goes along with it. We just wrapped our first chapter. It's 7 full-page, full-color issues, but this is a great time for you to jump on if you haven't yet, because Chapter 2 is well underway. We're a little bit more than halfway through creating the comics for that chapter, and that will be coming soon. We are doing a Kickstarter in between. More information on that to come. Check it out at socialstudiescomic.com. Thanks.